Number 5, Halloween Ends. But will it though? Cause there's like 46 full-length movies in this universe, isn't there? Hey, and we love them all. Who am I kidding? Halloween Ends is an upcoming American slasher film directed and written by David Gordon Green, Danny McBride, Paul Brad Logan, and Chris Bernier. The current R-rated Halloween trilogy serves as a direct sequel to the 1978 original slasher, with a number of OG actors reprising their roles. It's the 13th installment in the Halloween franchise. Ooh, number 13, huh? The film is set to star the Queen of Screams herself, the legendary Jamie Lee Curtis, Will Patton, Kyle Richards, to name a few. Definitely some peeps reprising the roles from other Halloweens. I see that. I can't wait for this. Most of us have known this franchise, universe, multiverse, whatever you want to call it, our whole lives. Fast walks and jump scares. It's coming to a theater near you very soon, actually. In June 2018, before the release of Halloween 2018, McBride confirmed that he and Green had intended to pitch 2 films that would be shot back to back, but decided against it, waiting to see how the first film was perceived. In 2019, the film's title was announced along with Halloween Kills. The film will be produced by Jason Blum with Blumhouse Productions alongside Rough House, Miramax, and Trancas. Halloween Ends is scheduled to be released October 14th, 2022 by Universal Pictures. It will also stream simultaneously on Peacock for 60 days. I love these movies, man. The acting alone, like how do they act so scared? It's so believable. Just screaming all day, take after take. That's a lot of tea with honey and lemon, isn't it? Less is more always, and I'll definitely be having a night filled with chips, dips, and lots of hands in my face blocking the screen, you know? I'll do my best. That's how I watch scary movies. Just like, I can't see it at all. I'm a huge chicken, I'm not gonna lie.
Coming in at number 4, NECRONOMICON, Book of the Dead. Brian Yuzna is back with more Lovecraftian action. Well, partially. He played a hand in the creation of this 3-part horror anthology with other shorts by Christoph Gans and Shusuke Kaneko. The film is bookended by H.P. Lovecraft himself traveling to read the Necronomicon at a monastery run by secretive monks. While he reads, different stories play for our entertainment, all based on stories by Lovecraft. The first one is based on the rats in the walls and shows us 2 generations of men trying to revive their loved ones using the Necronomicon. Of course, the folks that come back to life are abominations, and the resurrectors are severely punished. Next is The Cold, based on Cool Air. My favorite of the trio, this focuses on a doctor who seduces a younger woman with the power of immortality through sheer cold. He kills her stepfather and performs gruesome experiments on the corpse. Later on, it's revealed that the woman is pregnant with his eternally unborn child and must subsist on spinal fluid. Do you want to lend her some of yours? Lastly, we're treated to Whispers, based on the Whisperer in The Darkness. A pregnant cop is captured by the Butcher, sees her husband killed, and also has her fetal child stole by demon bats. Cosmic horror is tough to pull off in filmic form, but the effects in this movie are worth the price of admission, no doubt. Gross, slimy, gory, abominable, and hellish, it's no wonder that Tom Savini supervised the effects. Screaming Mad George had a hand in them as well. The tentacled beasts might stick around in your brain for a little while. Barreling through at number 3, we've got The Devil's Rejects. Rob Zombie does a great job making exactly 0 of his characters likable in this depraved, violent romp. That doesn't make it a bad movie, but it makes it one that's hard to watch. Thankfully, he makes up for this with plenty of killer style and country fried music. The first sequel to House of a Thousand Corpses, The Devil's Rejects picks off where it left off. The Firefly family being a bunch of irredeemable, murderous lunatics. Following an insane shootout led by revenge-fueled Sheriff John Quincy Wydell, it turns into a demented road movie of sorts, with the last remaining Fireflies traveling the countryside while avoiding the law and slicing and dicing their way through a smattering of new victims. This is no light-hearted traveling circus though. The killing in this movie is sadistic and cruel. The whole thing reeks of sadism and malice, which for some is a plus. For others, it might be upsetting and weariness inducing. Even if you think the Fireflies have learned a valuable lesson from receiving their comeuppance from the sheriff, you're quickly reminded that they'll never change by Lynyrd Skynyrd. I am a firm believer in the theory that the world is divided into 2 groups, those who love Rob Zombie's Firefly series and those who think it's a little much. Folks on either side will have a small chance of agreeing on horror entertainment. Slicing his way in at number 2, we've got Ichi the Killer. Just about everything in this movie exudes insane, over-the-top violence or weirdly sexual tones. Sometimes it's cartoonish, which makes sense given the manga it was based on, and sometimes it's visceral and horrifying. It's a fascinating balance to strike, plus I'm not sure if balance is a good word. Ichi the Killer often flies off the rails in insane and incredible ways. We begin on a shot of a man savagely beating a woman, and the titular Ichi getting off to it, peeping Tom style. This is a good indication of what's to come. Pun intended. Then we meet Kakihara, the sort of mirror image of Ichi. Where Ichi is meek and needs to be encouraged to go on killing sprees, Kakihara actively enjoys dishing out pain and receiving it in equal measures. Most of the movie is Kakihara looking for both the person who killed his master and for Ichi, torturing sources of information along the way. The whole movie revels in creative torture, whether it's hanging someone with hooks through their skin or slicing faces off wholesale. The violence is excessive, sometimes amusing, sometimes disgusting. Like The Devil's Rejects, the main characters are totally unredeemable. They may be charismatic and interesting, but there's a 0% chance of anyone labeling them good people. These are things that director Takashi Miike wants to foreground: the consumption of violence in media and its implications, machismo, braggadocio, violent sexuality, and more. If you walk in unprepared, it's gonna be a wild ride. And finally at number 1, Antichrist. Anything by Lars von Trier is going to provoke, but Antichrist is a stellar standout horror film that is extremely hard to watch. He began writing it while hospitalized for a deep depressive episode, conceiving it as a horror film as that would allow for some very, very strange images. It's inspired by Tarkovsky, if that tells you anything. We're introduced to a couple reeling from the death of their young son. They decide to retreat to the forest where the man starts having disturbing visions in nature, while the woman becomes increasingly violent and sadomasochistic. Prepare yourself for some disturbing images, including but not limited to dozens of swollen ticks, a doe with a stillborn calf hanging out, blood flowing from places that blood should not flow from, the drilling of a metal bolt through one's leg, the removal of a particular mound of nerves using scissors, and more. This is a film full of dark, bleak, dismal imagery of raw, unforgiving nature. Von Trier found inspiration in the dual identity of nature itself, portrayed as peaceful and romantic, but also as a place of great pain and suffering as different species try to kill and eat each other. Full of sex, evil, death, religion, and more, this is a movie that will stir things in you that you may have preferred unstirred.
Number 5 on this list is Texas Chainsaw Massacre. If slasher movies are more your style of horror, then this movie should definitely be up your alley. Texas Chainsaw Massacre is an upcoming Netflix film directed by David Blue Garcia. It stars Sarah Yarkin, Elsie Fisher, and Mark Burnham. This is going to be the 9th installment of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise. However, this movie doesn't act as the 9th in the franchise, as it's supposed to be a direct sequel from the first ever Texas Chainsaw Massacre that was released in 1974. Now, if you've never seen that first movie and you do intend to watch it, then just be aware that the log line for this next upcoming film, there's actually a spoiler in regards to that original movie. I'm going to read that off now. The log line of this movie is Melody, her teenage sister Lila, and their friends Dante and Ruth head to the remote town of Harlow, Texas to start an idealistic new business venture. But their dream soon turns into a waking nightmare when they accidentally disrupt the home of Leatherface, the deranged serial killer whose blood-soaked legacy continues to haunt the area's residents, including Sally Hardesty, the sole survivor of his infamous 1973 massacre, who's hellbent on seeking revenge. So that paints a pretty good picture of what you can expect from this movie. Texas Chainsaw Massacre has been an extremely successful franchise, and that first movie made incredible advances to the slasher genre as a whole. That being said, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise has never been known for their extensive story or plot lines. I obviously have yet to be able to see this movie and don't want to give it an unfair evaluation. However, I would imagine that this movie will be pretty similar to its predecessors in the past. If blood, gore, and brutal death is for you, then you'll probably love it. The film is set to be released on Netflix on February 18th of 2022.
Number 4, Hellraiser. The Hellraiser franchise is back with this sci-fi supernatural horror we all love, which includes 4 films, 6 straight-to-home video films, various comic books and media, all based around the novella by English author Clive Barker titled The Hellbound Heart. The franchise centers around the Cenobites, including the primary antagonist we all love and fear, the infamous Pinhead. Next month, Hellraiser's back. The film is directed by David Bruckner, with screenplay by Ben Collins and Luke Petrowski, from a story that they wrote with David Goyer. This project is intended to serve as a reimagining of Clive Barker's 1987 film and the 11th installment of the Hellraiser franchise. The film will follow closely to the source material novella written by Barker, The Hellbound Heart, and the film is going to star Odessa Azion and Jamie Clayton, and is a co-production from the 20th Century Studios, Spyglass Media, and Phantom 4 Films. Plans for a Hellraiser remake was in talks in 2007. However, following the release of Hellraiser Revelations, to secure the rights, they had to hold off a bit. By 2018, after the critical and commercial success of Halloween, Miramax Films confirmed plans of a new Hellraiser project, including a prequel and reboot. The film was greenlit in 2019, with Bruckner directing a script written by Collins and Petrowski, and shooting began September 2021. Hellraiser is scheduled to be released exclusively on Hulu as a Hulu original film this October 7th, 2022. I'm not gonna lie, this looks awesome. I wonder how they had to sit through all the hair and makeup though, you know? Trish trying to drink a coffee, but you can't reach your own face. I made a wicked Hellraiser mask for Halloween one year, you know? Just a Jabberwocky's mask, smashed a bunch of nails right through it. Did the trick. Number 3, Dark Harvest. This looks pretty dark and twisted. Dark Harvest is an American upcoming fantasy horror film directed by David Slade and written by Michael Gillio based on the 2006 novel of the same name by Norman Partridge. Scheduled to be released in theaters September 9th, 2022. In early 2019, it was reported New Regency hired David Slade to direct the adaptation of Dark Harvest, with Michael Gillio writing the script and Mac Tolmack and David Mamperl producing. We know some of Slade's movies already, such as Hard Candy, Twilight Eclipse, and Bandersnatch. Great films, you know? Great shots. The plot, here we go. Every fall in a small Midwestern town, a supernatural specter named Sawtooth Jack arises from the cornfields and approaches the town's church, where violent gangs of young boys hungrily await their chance to confront the legendary nightmare in an annual harvest rite of life and death. Richie Shepard lives in the shadow of his big brother, who won last year's October prize to get his ticket out of town. To prove to himself and his brother, Richie pairs up with the relentless dreamer Kelly Haynes, who will do whatever it takes to escape this dead-end town. Against the rules and against the odds, Richie and Kelly decide to hunt down the legendary nightmare themselves together. Okay, this sounds different. The nickname really shook me though, you know? Sawtooth Jack. Like, first and last names are scary enough sometimes. You don't need a visceral nickname from a cornfield, you know? Very terrifying. I guess we're gonna see this Jack Skellington meets Children of the Corn nightmare in the next couple of weeks, actually. Looks pretty awesome. The concept art alone. Very terrifying. Number 2, Jeepers Creepers Reborn. One of my favorite horror universes. These movies have kept me awake many, many hours. And, well, here we go again. Jeepers Creepers Reborn is an upcoming American horror film directed by Timo Vuorensola in his Hollywood debut. Written by Sean Michael Argo, it is the 4th film and a reboot in the Jeepers Creepers film series, meant to serve as the first in a planned trilogy set apart from Victor Salva's original trilogy. Okay, so same concept, different vision. I got it. We have a Snyder Cut. I get it. The film is scheduled to be released in the US September 19th, 2022 by Screen Media Films. Now, for the plot. The Horror Hound Festival is being held for the first time in Louisiana. Among the attendees are Chase and his girlfriend Lane, who begins to experience unexplained premonitions and disturbing visions associated with the town's past and the infamous Creeper. Principal photography started shooting in Jackson, Louisiana. Soon after, however, the production was moved to the UK due to the pandemic. Filming in the UK was split into 2 parts. The first in November 2020 at Black Hanger Studios and finished on December. The second filming chunk took place between January and February 2021. The title was officially confirmed as Jeepers Creepers Reborn in February 2021 when Screen Media Films acquired the rights in the US and Canada. At the 2021 European film market, Foresight Unlimited showed a promotional reel of footage for the international sales, and apparently it was pretty scary. Yeah, I can't wait for this one. I love these movies. They're campy, they're cheesy, they're absolutely terrifying. True story, my sister and I were watching the first one as kids and a giant moth flew in front of the porch light. Yeah, just like a 40-foot winged shadow on the wall. All of a sudden, mid-movie. Yeah, that'll keep you up. And number 1, we have Smile. Okay, this one looks the scariest by far, and I'm not sure if it's in the budget or it's just the neighborhood that I live in, but everyone smiles like this, you know? I'm looking forward to watching this, but I don't want to see it, you know? Smile is an upcoming American psychological horror film written and directed by Parker Finn in his feature film debut. It's based on his 2020 short film, Laura Hasn't Slept. Gonna rename that to Kyle Hasn't Slept after watching this one 100%. Yeah. The film stars Sosie Bacon, Jesse T. Usher, Kyle Gallner, Caitlin Stacey, Cal Penn, and Rob Morgan. Smile will have its world premiere at Fantastic Fest on September 22nd, 2022, and is scheduled to be released in the US September 30th, 2022 by Paramount Pictures. Alright, so we'll get a better idea in the next couple of weekends. Also, which movie do you think of when you see the Paramount logo? You know what I mean? Mine's Grease. Every time I see it, I just feel like Grease Lightning's coming up. I don't know. Okay, now the plot. After witnessing a bizarre traumatic incident involving a patient, Dr. Rose Cotter starts experiencing frightening occurrences that she can't explain. Rose must confront her troubling past in order to survive and escape her horrifying new reality. The short film won the Special Jury Recognition Prize for South by Southwest's Midnight Short category. In September 2021, the film was announced under under a different title, however, of Something's Wrong. Shooting began October 11th in New Jersey and finished in November. Okay, so a nice little quick turnaround, you know? They had like a one-take kind of day. Yo, imagine walking around and everyone's just smiling like Mr. Burns at you all day. That's horrifying. I think I would just bird box myself and just blindfold up, you know? Just start swinging. Yeah, this looks great. I can't wait. I watched the trailer and then I started seeing people smiling at me on the way home. You know what I mean?
Kicking us off at number 5, the human centipede. Oh boy. Yeah. I'm sure you've all seen this already or at least heard of it, but what is now a pop culture phenomenon / running joke was once a shocking piece of horror cinema. We follow a German surgeon who decides to kidnap 3 people and stitch them together, mouth to butt. The idea is that one person will eat food and it'll pass through them, and then the processed food will then be fed to the next in line. So why would a surgeon think that this is a viable strategy? Who knows? What I do know is that it is a filthy film that had a huge impact on the horror movie scene at the time. The director actually kept the mouth to butt part hidden from investors and backers, opting to only share the stitching people together bits, which makes sense, as the idea was pretty likely to hurt the film's viability. The true nature wasn't revealed until the entire film was complete, and if the director knew this all along, it's pretty easy to see how gross the idea is. The movie itself plays out like a pretty standard horror film and isn't all that scary, but the idea behind it is definitely extra raunchy. It even inspired 2 sequels, each more insane than the one that came before. However, I stick by my rating of the first as number 1. Firstly, it was the most original, and it caused the most uproar. And second, the 2 sequels were just reactions to the first, attempts to one-up the insane idea for an even crazier experience. In doing so, they became more like jokes than anything else, even if they did amp up the disturbing elements to 11. The human centipede is set up perfectly to disturb, with a beginning loaded with cliches to lull the audience, a quick chance at escape, and the procedure itself. The front of the centipede can't speak English, and therefore nobody can communicate. The guy at the front also just opts to scream and cry the whole time. The main character is stuck in the middle, unable to move freely, speak, eat, or even rest. The centipede is treated like a pet with a weird, shameless affection. Again, this movie's been memed on a million times, but it is certainly hard to forget. I clearly remember where I was, who I was with, and even what I was eating when I first saw this movie at the tender age of 14. My parents' basement, my best friend, granola bars, and off-brand Coca-Cola. It was like grocery store brand, I forget what it was called. Needless to say, I wasn't eating and drinking much once it started.
Number 4 on this list is Firestarter. Firestarter, according to Google, is an upcoming American science fiction horror film directed by Keith Thomas, based on the novel of the same name by Stephen King. It's a reboot of the 1984 film adaptation. Anything that is based on a Stephen King book has my attention, and especially one as cool as Firestarter. The film is directed by Keith Thomas and stars Zac Efron. The initial Firestarter movie that was made in 1984 didn't do as well as the movie makers might have hoped, and I imagine that the makers of this film intend to raise the bar this time around. The premise is as follows. A young man must protect his daughter after she develops pyrokinesis and is hunted by a secret government agency known as the Shop that intends to capture and control her. Now, I've never read Firestarter or seen the initial movie, but the premise sounds incredibly cool to me. Just from reading that, I can see a lot of potential comparisons to the show Stranger Things, which I absolutely loved. I will admit that this movie doesn't sound quite as scary as some of the other ones on this list, but I imagine that it's going to be a pretty good thriller, and if it's done properly, should keep us on the edge of our seats the entire time. The science fiction horror movie has yet to get an official release date, but most people are speculating that it'll be late 2022. Number 3 on this list is Scream. The movie Scream is informally being referred to as Scream 5, and that should let you know that it's going to be the 5th installment of the Scream franchise. Similar to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, this movie should appeal to our slasher lovers out there. The movie is going to be directed by Matt Bettinelli-Olpin and also Tyler Gillett. This is going to be really interesting for the franchise as a whole because it's going to be the only Scream movie not directed by Wes Craven, who sadly passed away in 2015. David Arquette, Neve Campbell, Courtney Cox, and Roger L. Jackson are all coming back to play their original roles from the past films. The premise of this movie is 25 years after a streak of brutal murders shocked the quiet town of Woodsboro, a new killer dons the ghost face mask and begins targeting a new group of teenagers to resurrect secrets from the town's deadly past. It's been over a decade since the last Scream movie came out, with the last one being in 2011, so fans of the franchise are pretty excited to be getting another installment in the series. Apparently this movie is to be a direct sequel to the events that occurred in Scream 4. In all honesty, I've only ever seen the first Scream and can't give my personal opinion on the last several installments of this franchise. However, I did give the trailer for this upcoming Scream a watch, and it definitely looks like a winner. The production quality looks great, and it seems like there's a pretty solid story there as well. This one is coming out very soon, with the initial release supposed to happen on January 14th of 2022. Number 2 on this list is Nope. Nope is an upcoming film from horror legend Jordan Peele. Peele is said to have written, directed, and produced the movie under his Monkey Paw Productions company. The film is said to star Daniel Kaluuya, Ethan Kutkoski, and Steven Yeun. Now, in all honesty, not much is known about this movie in regards to the plot. The only thing that we've really seen about this movie is the poster of it. The poster features what looks to be a small town or potentially a circus at the foot of some mountains with some extremely menacing clouds overhead. This is basically all we've gotten from Peele about this project so far, but it hasn't stopped fans from trying to speculate. Now, some people are guessing that the title Nope gives a lot away about the style of this horror movie. People on the internet use the word nope to describe movies or scenes from movies. For instance, a nope scene might be one where something super cringy or awkward is happening that makes the audience want to turn away or effectively say nope to the scene. Some people are speculating that the entire Peele movie will have scenes like this and attack the audience with jarring stuff that makes the viewer uneasy. Others are thinking that the movie could be about a cloud, considering the clouds in the poster are certainly pretty frightening and really foreboding. Some other people are even guessing that the movie could be a sequel to Peele's most famous horror project, Get Out. The reason that they say this is because this is the first reunion Daniel Kaluuya and Jordan Peele have had since that movie. Jordan Peele's horror career has been one of great success so far, and if Nope is anything like the other works he's written and directed, then this could very easily turn into be one of the scariest and best horror movies of 2022. As of right now, the film is set to release in July, so definitely keep it on your radar. Number 1 on this list is The Black Phone. The Black Phone sounds utterly terrifying if you ask me. The movie is a supernatural horror film that's directed by Scott Derrickson, who is also the director of The Exorcism of Emily Rose. It stars Ethan Hawke, who I absolutely love as an actor, and is based off of the 2004 short story of the same name written by Joe Hill. And in case you weren't familiar, Joe Hill is the son of famous horror author Stephen King, and he really channeled his father's energy with the short story of The Black Phone. The plotline of this movie on Rotten Tomatoes is as follows. Finney Shaw, a shy but clever 13-year-old boy, is abducted by a sadistic killer and trapped in a soundproof basement where screaming is of little use. When a disconnected phone on the wall begins to ring, Finney discovers he can hear the voices of the killer's previous victims, and they are dead set on making sure that what happened to them doesn't happen to Finney. I watched the trailer of this movie and it looked just as scary as the plotline suggests. I don't know a lot about Ethan Hawke's character other than he's a sick murderer, but we do know he wears this unsettling mask at all times, so you can never really see his face. This horror movie has all the makings of being one of the best of the year, and if the actual film lives up to the trailer, then I can guarantee it's worth a watch. You won't have to wait that long either, because it's set to release on February 4th of 2022.